safety guidelines, practices and assessment, that type of thing, don't you?
For the industry?
Yeah, for all workers that go to work in these construction places.
Yeah, for the industry,
yeah. CPU, whether you're from the CFMEU or the electrical union, all of them. You want them all to be safe, don't you?
Oh, including we want to work with decent employers to do it as well.
And one of the recommendations, number 28, was that we have a safety performance stock take on the 30th of June 2016, correct?
If you could bring it up for me,
Yeah,
I'll just...
it's recommendation 28, sir.
I can't... Yeah. Well, you know...
You're not familiar with that one?
I don't have a photographic memory.
Well, it's in your... I'm not asking for a photographic memory. It's next to your statement.
Well, that's all I said. Can I just...
Page 10, recommendation 28.
Yeah, if we can get it up, I'll have a look at it, make sure it's the one, and give my perspective on it.
Which statement is this?
It's Mr. Hall's statement of the... his original statement to Mr. Commissioner of the 23rd of September 2014.
Right, page 10.
No, it's in annexure 2, page 10. It's the second annexure. It's Getting Home Safely Report recommendations. Read it out, Commissioner.
Yeah, I found it. But have you found it, Mr. Hall?
No, I haven't got it.
Let's have it.
Sorry.
Give you the page. Give this to Mr. Hall.
Sorry. Making you run around, sorry.
What's up on the screen at the moment hasn't been tendered.
We're not opposed to the tender of the Getting Them Home Safely report. It's a public document.
Where are we going, Mr. Morrison?
We are going.
Somewhere.
Yes, Commissioner.
Right.
It indicates there should be a stock take. Do you see that?
Yes.
One of the criticisms aired in the report also is that at page 10 of the report is that there's much, this is at under collaboration to get home safely.
Sorry.
The unions...
Sorry, I just haven't got it in front of me.
All right.
I'll give you my folder.
No, yeah, I've got one now. Mr. Stolger just gave me his. Do you want this? This is the Commissioner's. Sorry, what page was it?
Paragraph, it's on page 10.
Sorry, 10.
My page hasn't got numbers.
Doesn't have numbers.
Down the very bottom on the left-hand side, it's barely
I can't see numbers
No
on the
numbers.
Well,
These ones don't have numbers. They've been photocopied without the numbers.
go through it's at the page 10 of that document.
Sorry.
So that there's a heading at the top of the page, collaboration to get home safely.
So, can you tell me? I haven't got numbers on the document.
Just fold over to the page. If you can go through to page 10 of the document, it says collaboration to get home safely.
Keep on going, like page 10 in, do you think, of, including the covers or from the index?
So you want me to come and show you?
Yeah, bring it in. Yeah, you do it. Might be quicker. There you go.
There we go, just here.
Yep.
Indicates here there's much criticism that of the unions. Unions also have an important part to play. There is much criticism that their efforts are often driven by other industrial motivation. Inquiry panel heard that site visits and union focus is often concentrated on employers undergoing enterprise bargaining negotiations. Unions need to strive to build working relationships with employers. Do you see that?
Yes.
So one of the things that was raised in the report was this, the ulterior motives of unions. Do you see that?
Yes.
And that one of the serious allegations that's been made during this commission, one of the essential allegations, is that the unions have been using safety as a disgraceful and fraudulent way of gaining access to work sites to cause disruption and financial hardship to businesses that do not sign union EBAs and have their employees sign up as members. Do you understand that is an allegation that's being levelled against the CFMEU in this commission, correct?
Yes.
Sir, I asked David Broadley of the CEPU some questions about these issues. Have you spoken to David Broadley since he gave evidence on the 23rd of July this year?
No.
I raised with him the expression belting some sites. Have you heard that expression, sir?
No.
You've heard it referred to in this commission, though, haven't you?
Yes.
Mr McCann gave evidence that he understood it as a term of moving between sites, going from site to site, sort of belting around. You remember that reference being made?
Mr McCann from the ETU.
Mr McCann, yes. I don't think he's from the ETU.
No, I didn't recall that. I haven't seen that.
Mr Broadley, I believe he was from the CEPU, but Mr Broadley...
I think Mr McCann represents both ETU and CPU.
All right. Well, Mr Broadley, I raised that with Mr Broadley. He didn't know the term, but thought Mr McCann's definition was most likely accurate. But you're not aware of the term, is that right?
No.
You've never heard it used?
No.
I asked Mr Broadley about safety courses. He wasn't a person that had ever attended, upon his recollection, ever attending himself to do any training at all. Do you recall hearing him say that?
No.
He said he employed a safety officer to identify safety issues, and that they didn't need to do any compulsory courses. Is that right?
I didn't hear his statement.
Commissioner, sorry, but how is this relevant in any way to any evidence this witness can give, particularly if he hasn't even heard the evidence that my friend is quoting back to him?
I have a more fundamental, perhaps, objection. What is the use of it, Mr. Morrison? Where are we going?
I am going somewhere very shortly, Commissioner, if I can give a bit more leeway, rather than having to...
All right.
Luke Poskus was the New South Wales Safety Officer of the CPU. You know him.
I don't know if I've met him or not.
Well, when you do this collaboration with other unions in terms of safety, and this is a report that you referred to, Getting Home Safely, back in November 2012, surely you're liaising with the other unions to build these safety measures and this unified approach to safety across all unions as well as other means. Is that right or not?
No.
Right. So you don't talk to the other unions about their safety measures?
No.
Why not?
I don't.
Why don't you collaborate with other unions about safety if it's such an important issue?
We do collaborate, but we don't sit down and do love-ins about it.
Love-ins? I wasn't suggesting any love-ins, so I was talking about you speaking together about creating guidelines for assessments, training, the very things that you are dear to your heart about making sure that all workers come home safely.
Yeah. No, I was reading the paragraph above, the one you pointed out to me, where it said employers need to ensure that profit never comes at the expense of the safety of their workers.
Hall, can you
no, sorry, I was distracted.
Look, Mr Hall, you can put the Getting Home Safely report away and listen to my questions and pay the Commission the respect it deserves rather than the contempt you're showing it at the moment.
I've got tremendous respect for the Commission.
Well, then put the document away and answer my question. You're suggesting you don't talk to other unions about safety issues.
No, I don't.
And you don't have an explanation as to why.
We do it ourselves.
Right. So the CFMEU does what it does. It doesn't have anything to do with any other union on safety.
In Canberra?
Anywhere.
Or where I am, I don't know. How am I meant to answer questions about somewhere else?
I'm asking what you do as this person.
In Canberra?
Sir, you sat on a committee that you're telling us about. The Minister is wanting you to collaborate with all these other people to create safety measures, and you're telling us that you don't bother collaborating with them at all.
They have a representative on the committee.
Now, there's no legitimate reason to go onto a work site for a safety issue when you do not have prior notice of a specific safety issue, is there?
Sorry?
There's no legitimate reason to go onto a work site for a safety issue unless you have prior notice of a specific safety breach. That's correct,
Ridiculous.
isn't it?
No, that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
you need to have a work and safety report sheet filled out before you get there, don't you?
I object to that. That's not the law at all.
Well,
Depends
if I
what,
could continue.
depends
Unless,
what
of
the question,
course,
just a moment, Mr Morrison, what do you mean by need?
you must have a notice.
Must, because of a law?
Yes, must have a notice, unless you must have a notice that indicates a safety issue that you've been notified about, unless, of course, you spot something when you're driving along or some serious issue, you become alert to some serious issue just prior, at the time. So unless there's something that is immediate that you need to go and address, you need to have a written document to present, don't you?
But if it's about the law, can't we sort of, as lawyers, read it for ourselves? Mr Hall is not a lawyer.
Yeah, that's true, Commissioner. Notification you get generally by way of anonymous calls, is that right?
I get it all different ways.
Right. But there's no log kept of that, is that right?
No.
Right. You see, when I suggested to Mr Broadley, he thought it was a brilliant idea and that he was going to instigate the log immediately because he thought that was a great idea because he could then refer to it and make sure that there wasn't going to be any suggestions by the Commission that there was lack of authenticity to why people were going on to work sites. Do you understand the point?
No.
Right. Well, you see, if you have a log of calls, if there was some reference to a log of calls, you could verify that there was a legitimate reason as to why you went to a work site, correct?
I don't see that, no.
There's no point in keeping a log as far as you're concerned.
No.
Does it matter to you whether a person is dispatched to a work site for a safety issue immediately?
Sorry, I didn't get that one.
Well, if you became aware of a... first of all, how does the union... Does the union have like a designated person that receives calls, or is it just an ad hoc call that could go anywhere? It could go to the receptionist, could go to you, could go anywhere. There's no way of coordinating this important issue of safety, is that right?
Well, there are a number of questions there, Mr.
Okay,
Commissioner.
I'll break it down. When a call about safety comes in, it's not logged, correct?
No.
Right. So there's no way of verifying where it came or when it came, correct?
No.
And you don't know whether it's being acted upon or not, correct?
Acted upon in what
Well, you
sense?
don't know whether someone's ignored it or the call's just gone through. You don't know because there's no log of it.
Usually brought straight to my attention if I'm there.
Well, you don't know. There's no log of it. You've got no log of it, have you?
Well, that's an opinion, I guess, of that process, yes.
No, it's not an opinion, sir. It's a fact. There's
No, it's
no
usually
log.
brought to my attention.
You've got no log of the calls that have been brought to your attention, have you?
No.
Right. So when we go back to 2016, when we're doing the stock take on the recommendation of 28 of the getting home, we've got no way of giving them a reference as to how the industry's being compliant or safety use of the rides, because there's no log kept of them, is there?
That's not how they're doing the stock take.
Well, it's
The stock take is actually being used by data that's provided by Safe Work Australia, which is, that's what they're talking about, stock take data. They're talking about not only fatalities, but serious injuries that take a worker off more than 7 days.
But if you want to make...
So the information that they're talking about, Scott, is coming from an independent government source, and they're trying to measure it to see if there's been an improvement by the things that we are changing in the industry. They're trying to see if there's been a measured improvement in safety. So, if we go to a job, 95% of the times that I go to a job for safety, I go to a job where I've got a great relationship with the employer, and I go on the job and we work together and we fix it. And that's as far as it goes. With recalcitrant builders who have disgraceful safety, we go on the job and there's conflict because they want to hide their filthy practices. Now, when that happens, we fill out reports. We fill out reports, and just to summarise it for you, we fill out reports and we involve the Work Safety Authority, and they have those reports.
But you don't keep any log of these so-called times that you go onto work sites that have been, the allegations have been made against you that you're making it up, you're going on a work site knowing full well the moving feast of a work site will have some safety issue there. You go on some bogus basis in order to disrupt sites that haven't signed EBAs. That's what you're doing, and if you had anonymous calls, that's correct, isn't it?
Mr. Morrison, he has said several times they don't keep a log. So we need to break new ground.
Now you've got these new books, haven't you? These WHS books that the organisers have got.
I've got one myself.
Right. You lost it yet? Have you lost it? Or have you still got it?
Lost what?
Have you filled it out? Have you filled it out? Has it been filled out? Have you finished one yet?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Right. Where do they keep those?
I
I've got-
object to this. Mr Commissioner,
Just a moment,
we-
Mr. Regis. I'll return to you if necessary in a moment. Mr. Stoljar, you're in charge of the calling of evidence before this commission. What's your attitude?
Well, I must say this topic doesn't seem to arise from Mr Hall's evidence, and indeed I'm not certain where it's going at this stage with respect.
Mr. Aegis. Mr. Aegis,
yes.
you were going to make a submission, I think.
It doesn't arise from anything that this
I don't think
witness
the
has
fact
given.
that it doesn't arise doesn't matter. I think Mr. Morris is entitled to introduce new evidence if he wants to. But again,
The
I'm just
point
finding it
about whether
difficult.
or not
It's not useful.
A book has been completed by the secretary of the union, who isn't the first person on a site investigating safety breaches, when this act was only introduced in 2011, and we've no evidence about the thickness of the books. I mean, this is just all speculation, and with great respect, I cannot see how it is in any way linked to the terms of reference.
I've got some sympathy with that, Mr. Morrison.
Certainly. I'll just ask this question. It's a deliberate ploy by you, sir, and your organisers to not keep logs because you are shamelessly and disgracefully using the emotive issue of safety as a means to appear legitimate in gaining access and causing disruptions to sites that are identified and targeted because they are not being compliant to union demands of EBAs and people becoming members. That's correct, isn't it?
No. The building and construction industry in Canberra.
I think no's an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Now, sir, you've heard the expression pulling tampons out of pipes all day, haven't you?
No.
You never heard that reference?
No.
It's a reference to no more commercial work for you. You're back to the residential sector. You know what I'm referring to, don't you?
No.
You don't even know what I'm referring to when I raise it, is that it?
No.
You don't know that that's what you mentioned in your conversation with Mr. Nicolek. Is that right?
No.
You say it wasn't ever raised by you.
No.
Just in this pause, do you still have one sheet of paper containing some
I
recommendations?
do, sorry, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
You recall that in paragraph 17 of a statement,
No, I don't know
you...
that has been marked as...
Sorry, what statement, where are we?
I think he wants you to go to paragraph 17 of your statement of the 23rd of September 2014.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, can you put it up for me? It's probably easier just if it comes up here and try to fish through this.
Paragraph 17.
Paragraph 17. Yes.
You recall having that conversation?
I do.
It was in reference to a email that was sent by Mr. Hooper, David Broadley. It was brought to your attention, then you rang John Nicolek
I can't remember.
MBA, correct?
I can't remember how it was brought to my attention, but I did ring Mr. Nikolic about it.
Right. Now, could the witness please be shown an X-ray of Mr. Nikolic's statement, the email I'm referring to?
Thank you.
Have you seen that? You've seen that email before, haven't you?
Can't recall seeing this one.
You haven't never seen it, is that right?
Can't recall seeing it.
It makes reference in it to the CMFEU, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see CFMU a couple of times in it.
Just have a read of it to yourself.
Which part?
You've never seen it. The whole thing, if you haven't seen it before.
Okay.
Let me know when you've read it, sir.
I've read it.
Read it? All right. Now, you can't remember, you told us a moment ago, as to specifically why you rang Mr. Nikolic on that day, correct?
No, someone had told me that Mr. Hooper was calling my Mary and Tom and organiser apes. I'd heard that. When I rang him up,
Yeah, I understand
they're
that.
telling...
Yeah.
Well,
Well, no, I'm asking you why, in your statement, then you say, I did not ring Mr. Nikolic because of the email sent to Mr. Broadley on the 8th of August 2013, if you've never seen it before.
I can't recall saying it.
Why did you put in your statement you said you did not ring him because of that email?
I think it was brought up somewhere else.
No, it's in your statement in paragraph 17, sir.
Yeah, I know that I'd had an email was brought up by someone else.
What, you didn't read the email when you made your statement? Before you made your
I
statement?
can't remember
so
seeing it.
you don't remember seeing it at any stage?
I can't remember.
Statement, isn't he? It doesn't.
Well, why did you put in your statement, I did not ring Mr. Nikolic because of the email sent to Mr. Broadley on the 8th of August 2013?
Probably someone asked me whether I rang him because of that when I made the statement.
You suggest that but you agree with me, don't you, that there's derogatory matters raised about the CFMEU in that email?
Yes?
And you say that Mr. Broadley didn't contact you to tell you about that?
No. I can't recall him doing that. Someone rang me up and said that they were going around, Mr. Hooper's going around calling my island, Mary Islander organisers, apes or monkeys.
But you don't know who that is?
I can't remember who was told me, but I can remember ringing Mr.
Right.
Nikolic up because I don't believe that racial vilification has a place anywhere.
You see,
And I did
You're out
say
to get-
later in the statement, the comment about he can fuck off back to the residential sector, because that was more where he could go and have his racist policies.
so the other annexure to Mr. Nikolic's statement, the witness could be shown that, the file note reference, I believe it's exhibit connection B or C, B I believe. It's up on the screen now. You see that?
Yep.
Phone call received from Dean Hall, re Jason Hooper in relation to an email sent
That's all right, I can see it here. That's all right.
to the CPU about coercion to enter into an EBA. Dean conveyed that the fight should be with the CPU, and that Jason should be very careful if he didn't want to end up working in the residential sector. You see that?
Yep.
Makes a specific reference to this email, correct? To the email. That's
This is not my file note.
I know that, sir. But Mr. Lickley made a note at the time about the conversation with you, making specific reference that you were referring to the email. Does that?
No, I didn't.
You say you didn't?
I can't recall referring to the email.
Well, you may have referred to the email.
I hadn't seen the. I don't believe I've seen the email.
Well, you might have seen it, and you might have been referring to it, correct?
Maybe.
You see, in the email, there's a reference to goons. Did you see that?
Yeah, goons. Yeah.
Do you think
That's
consider
not
that
monkeys.
No, but do you consider that to be a racist comment?
No.
What's a goon?
Standover merchant.
A hired thug or a stupid person? Something along those lines.
Just gave you the definition.
Have you? Well, is that accurate reflection of the officials of the CFMEU?
No.
Not a racist reference, though, is it?
That is not a racist comment, no.
No. It might have been misinterpreted by someone.
Possibly.
Might have been David Broadley ringing you saying he's been referring to people as coons.
No, he didn't
Or
say that.
he might have been...
That's a highly offensive term, actually, and I...
Well, it is a highly offensive term, sir, that's correct. But what I'm saying is you're being offensive in your suggestion to Mr Hooper as well by suggesting he was racist when in fact he wasn't, and that he referred to the CMFEU as goons. You've been told second-hand what you thought someone had said, correct?
Probably hearsay then, yeah.
When you made your statement, it was done on memory alone, wasn't it?
Yes.
You didn't have any electronic reference notes to assist you in your recollection of what had happened, did you?
No.
You didn't have any file notes of the conversation you had, did you?
No.
You don't keep any file notes or logs of anything because so that you can't be scrutinised about what's said. Isn't that right?
Sorry?
You
There's
don't
two
have
questions there.
Sorry?
Do you keep file notes
You don't keep file notes, do you?
about what particular issues?
Anything.
You keep a lot of, EBAs and stuff, we've got a lot of files. We've got a lot of files.
You made a threat against Hooper, and you also said words to the effect that you would deal with Hooper, or did you say words to the effect that you'd deal with Hooper the old-fashioned way and beat him out in the paddocks?
No. I never
aware
met
that
them. I've never met the man.
You're aware that Hooper's never signed a union EBA?
He's a plumber.
You've got no interest in him.
He-
Is that right?
We don't cover plumbers.
Well, why is it that in the at page 99 of that document that was tendered today, it's the 18th of August 2015, organisers meeting where you've got a reference there to get Hooper. Why is that? Why is that, Mr Hall?
I'm just waiting for it to come back up.
You don't remember that meeting a month or so ago?
Where does it say that? Where does it say that? Vance Plumbing. Doesn't
No.
say get Hooper.
No, not that page. It's
Page 99.
99. No, that's not the right one.
Again, Mr. Hall, it might help if you look at my copy.
Sorry.
I put online Mr Morrison read out.
Have you got it there?
Yeah, it's Gary Hamilton's notes.
Okay, no, I know you can blame Gary if you like, but he's just taking the notes of what you're saying, isn't he? Get Hooper, Ryan, they're all these people from the scaffolding and... But why would you have Get Hooper? Get Hooper, 18th of August this year.
Might have been
Unless he's been saying things that you didn't like and you wanted to smother him out of business.
Might have been get.
Oh, you're going to speculate now, are you?
Well, I
No,
object to that.
Mr Morrison, please. Now, Mr Hall.
It might have been that we wanted to get their statements, and Gary shorthanded it because we wanted to see what they said about us, and we wanted to get transcripts so we can read them because I think they'd be up by then. I'm not sure, but that's what it's probably about.
You think
Get Hooper, Ryan, Arona, and McElvey. It's to get their statements, what they said about us. That's what I reckon.
That's absolute rubbish, isn't it?
That's
Absolute rubbish. They'd
No.
already given their statements and given their evidence. So you didn't need to get their statements at that stage, sir. You were organising a campaign to get them, weren't you?
No.
No campaign. Is that right?
Yes.
No campaign at all with flyers to be sent around to get them? Nothing about that? No flyers being sent around about sort of releasing certain information from the Commission? Nothing about that?
With respect to who?
Well, you were at the meeting, sir. What's it about? What's it all about?
I just told you.
You don't know what it's about.
I said it. I'm speculating that, but it believes what it would be is to get. Gary would have to get. We'd been asked to get to print out the statements and the transcript so we could reflect on what they said about us.
Reflect on it.
Yeah, well, we're going to go to the Royal Commission. You know, we wanted to see what was going on.
It had already happened. It had already
Yeah.
been...
We were going to get the information, so yeah, definitely. So we knew what they said about us.
You were going to have a campaign to get him. That's what you're going to do, isn't it?
No.
So, you understand, don't you, that if you increase productivity, more can be reduced for the same input costs. You understand that concept?
Just a moment, Mr Hall. Isn't this a question of argument rather than... The first point is, isn't this a question of argument rather than testimony? The second point is, do you really think Mr Hall is going to give you any answer which will serve your purposes?
I think so. I think so. If he's logical, I'm just going to try.
Right. Try for a short time then.
Increased productivity. Do you understand what increased productivity is?
Hey, could you define it for me?
You don't know.
No, could you define it for me?
You seriously don't know.
I want you to give your definition so we're operating on the same narrative.
Well, sir, what do you understand increased productivity is?
What do I understand it to be?
Yeah.
For every unit of labour, you derive more profit.
Well, you can produce...
See, this is what we're talking about now. You've got a different version to me.
Is that a smart remark, is it, or...?
No, that's just proving my point.
You can produce more for the same input cost. You understand that?
That's your definition
So
of it. If you got an economics book, we'd probably have 3 or 4 authors who have different versions of it.
I don't think so.
But if we come to a common one, I'm quite happy we can sit here for a while and try to come to a common...
I don't think so, Mr Hall, because...
Keynesian economics probably goes up against
Sorry?
different... There's probably all different theories on economic...
But you're of the view, though, that you can increase wages irrespective of whether there's increases in productivity, correct?
It's got nothing to do with me with productivity. I'm only interested in the wage and conditions of my members.
That's right. So it's a business...
Mr Stoljar, You're in charge of the evidence and you're in charge of submissions.
Well, we do seem to have moved off again a topic that directly relates to issues arising in the Canberra hearings. If my friend wanted to indicate, perhaps by reference to the topics that were identified in the opening yesterday, which one this goes to, that might assist in clarifying it, or if not,
All right,
might
I'll
assist
move.
the Commission.
I think that
I will
he's
move to...
entitled to go beyond those topics.
Mr.
But
Commissioner,
just to be brutally frank about it, without any disrespect to either Mr. Morrison or Mr. Hall, these questions are not going to generate any useful answers because of their extraordinary generality and the lack of common ground between the two gentlemen.
Certainly, Commissioner, if I could put this to the witness, you advocate, don't you, Mr. Hall, for price-fixing, anti-competitive behaviour amongst construction industry businesses to overcome competition problems that arise when some businesses sign up for union EBAs within industry groups and others don't. That's right, isn't it?
No.
You target businesses without union EBAs to protect those that do, don't you?
No.
You disrupt, threaten, intimidate businesses without union EBAs to force them to sign union EBAs.
No.
You cause financial hardship to businesses without union EBAs in order to coerce them into becoming union compliant, correct?
No.
You do not care less about the long-term viability, competitiveness or productivity growth of businesses within the construction industry.
Oh, no, that's not correct.
It is correct because you only care about workers' wages going up regardless of any sign of productivity growth or economic growth or anything else of that nature that could provide the basis for legitimate wage rises. You don't care less about the businesses at all, do you?
I often say to employers, I hope you get a second house down the coast and a new four-wheel drive, and I hope you make lots of money, because the more money and comfortable you are, the better chance you can pay the wages and conditions to my members.
Please don't interrupt him.
You're only interested in union membership increases, membership dues, union EBA compliant business so they can feed the coffers of the union movement. That's correct, isn't it?
No.
Well, why would you care then if a worker is getting the same wage that a union worker's getting, or a business is operating efficiently and paying its workers what they're happy to receive, and they're getting the same wages that a person on an EBA, union EBA is getting? Why would you care whether they're a union member or a union EBA compliant business? Why would you care?
Can you give me an example where that happens in real life?
Do you care?
Can you just give me an example of where that happens in real life, one place?
Sir, you want...
I care about my members and I care about the wage and
You've
conditions
just
they get.
used several times the most dangerous word a cross-examiner can ever use. That is why. I think you should reconsider the question.
Sir, you're only interested in short-term goals to increase revenue streams for your union, aren't you?
No.
You do so for your own selfish motivations, and it's nonsense that you do it for the long-term benefit of your members, isn't it?
No.
You've launched a smear campaign against business and employers, have given evidence in the Royal Commission that have given evidence against what you perceive to be the interests of the CMFEU. That's correct, isn't it?
No.
I've only further.
Mr. Aegis.
Just two topics I want to raise with you. One relates to the building site at Moore and Mason Streets and the visit to the site on the 21st of April. And you'll recall that Mr. Stoljar asked you some questions about that, and without quoting him verbatim, the substance of some of what he was putting to you was that part of the motivation for going there on the 21st of April had to do with the fact that Millen, or the builder on that site, didn't have a union EBA.
Yes.
Did you have a belief as to whether or not Millen had any kind of EBA, that is, an EBA under the auspices of the MBA?
Yes, he had one with the MBA that was certified in, I believe, the year before, late the year before.
So if he were minded to, whilst he was bound by that EBA, to take on a union EBA, what can you tell the Commissioner what would be involved in that?
Oh, it's a very hard thing to change, near impossible for that to happen.
Why is that?
He's got to go back. He's got to talk to all his workers. We've got to put it back through Fair Work. I've never personally seen it ever happen.
So what would he have to do with the EBA that's registered?
He'd have to
at
get it
Fair
struck
Work?
out. He'd have to get it struck out.
And before he could do that, would he be able to do that by himself? Or?
No, he'd have to consult with his entire workforce and get them to agree to it.
So what would there have been, in your view, given your position as Secretary of the Union, would there have been any point in trying to exert pressure on Mr. Millen at the time that he had an MBA, EBA registered, for him to sign an EBA with the union?
No.
Now, this issue of the smear campaign, you've been taken several times to the notes that were taken on the 7th of July this year.
Mr. Hall will need a copy of my volume again, I think.
It's all right, Commissioner. If it comes up here, I'm okay.
Page 9.
Thank you.
Which is, as we know, the second page of the notes for that day.
Yeah.
It's probably obvious, but there's a box marked prepared by Gary H.
Yes.
So whose handwriting are those notes?
I believe it's Gary Hamilton's.
And then there's the words media release, underlined, smear campaign for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And then there are a list of businesses.
Yes.
You've said in the course of your answers to Mr. Stoljar that in substance that refers to the union being the subject of a smear campaign.
Yes.
We've seen now the media release by the MBA on that very day, the 7th of July 2015. Had there been any other activity by the MBA prior to the 7th of July 2015?
Yes.
What was the other activity?
They organised a demonstration of sham contracting form workers at the front of our office.
And when was that?
I think the Friday before it.
And then in the course of your answer to Mr. Stoljar at page 2328.19, so if we could bring up page 2328, line 19 or thereabouts. Have you got your... Yes, line 19. Can you see the answer that you've given in answer to the question, what does it mean? Yes, and then you said that it was happening. We were getting press releases released on the day of the commission and the journalists being briefed. There was a lot of smear statements being used out of the commission were being used against us. Were you referring to one event there or more than one event?
A number.
And over what period of time?
Basically, the leading up to it and during the hearings.
Right. Well, there are a number of documents which are on the ACT MBA website indicating releases There's one of the 7th of July, one of the 13th of July entitled Media Release Construction Companies Should No Longer Have to Pay a Price to Work. One on the 15th of July, Mounting Evidence Points to Severely Restricted Competition in the Commercial Construction Industry. One on the 16th of July, Not One Rogue Official Saves Master Builders. One on the 21st of July, All Canberrans are paying the cost of CFMEU lawlessness, says Master Builders ACT. And they're all public documents and I can go on reading them, but were you aware or being made aware of these releases on a day-by-day basis during the course of the hearings of the Royal Commission?
Myself, we were in contact by journalists about them.
Now, is that the sort of thing you're referring to in your answer?
Well, I object, Commissioner. The whole basis of that question by what I also raised it, Mr. Stolger raised it as well, was his knowledge prior to the 7th of July. Now, my friends conveniently ignored that and gone on to talk about matters that were raised weeks after that. It was all about what was the basis of his knowledge of that file note on the 7th of July.
I'll allow the question, but your point, of course, might well have substantive force as a matter of findings of fact later.
Thank you.
So have you got the question readily available, Mr. Aegis?
So when you said those words, which are recorded in the transcript at 19, line 19 on page 2328, were you focusing on what was happening as at the 7th of July, or were you focusing on a broader spectrum of time?
The whole spectrum.
Now, do you now have a clear recollection of the circumstances upon which and the date upon which the various statements were taken from you and provided so that they could be provided to the Royal Commission?
No, yes. No, I don't know.
No, yes.
Well, I just had of the process.
Yes.
Yes, there was a process that I was asked questions about issues, yes.
And do you recall whether that process took place in the ACT or whether it took place in Sydney?
ACT.
And do you recall how it took place? Who was present when you were being asked questions to make your statements?
The lawyer.
Well, there's three of us at
Mr.
the
Slevin.
bar table.
Mr. Slevin. And, no, sometimes other lawyers, Mr. Roberts.
Yes. And
Mr.
what
Roberts.
about Mr. Passfield?
Yes, and Mr. Passfield too.
And during that process or during that time period, were arrangements also being made for the lawyers to speak to other officers of your union?
It was very busy.
And during that time, were you ever given a statement of any person who was to be called to give evidence before the Royal Commission to read?
No.
And to the extent to which your statements refer to phrases such as, I understand that so-and-so has made a statement to the Royal Commission. If you didn't read that person's statement, how did you gain that understanding?
I was told general information about it. Or I heard it. It was in
Did you
beforehand.
respond to the questions that you were asked then?
Yes, I was responding to the questions.
Questions put to you by whom?
The lawyers, whichever lawyer it was.
And was that the process that was used for the purpose of taking your statements?
Yes.
Anything further? Yes, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. That's all I have.
Mr. Stolger?
The only thing I wish to do, Commissioner, was tender the report bringing them home safely, about which Mr. Hall was asked some questions.
Yes, that report will
No, please, Commissioner. And
Just one on the topic of evidence. This morning, I think Mr. Aegis gave you a piece of paper about the redundancy of Mr. Kivalu. Does that matter got to the stage of anything being tendered, or is it desirable just to...
Well, I can perhaps tender it. Mr. Aegis indicated to me just informally, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, that there may be some further documents that they may be able to assemble. That was the only reason I was...
Well, I think it would be...
Perhaps I'll tender it now, and if there are any supplementary documents, I'll do that. So I tender an email from Scott Abraham to Mr. Hall of 27 July 2015.
Lee Hall, MFI 8 of the 8th of October 2015, and Mr. Aegis, if any more documents come to light in the near future without undue expenditure of effort, it might
That
be useful
email
if you gave
itself
them to Mr. Stolja.
refers to other documents, and I thought that might excite interest, and it does appear from the email itself that the other documents would be relevant to the issues that the witness is being asked about, and we're more than happy to provide that material.
I think that would be more efficient than going through the agonies of a notice to produce, where the pleasure of that procedure is starting to wane after a year and a half.
Yeah. Happy to do that.
So, Mr. Hall,
Yes, Commissioner.
excused from further attendance.
Yes.
Mr. Hall, you've been in the box a number of times. You're excused from further attendance on the summons. Thank you for giving up the time to give evidence. You can leave the witness box. So now, I would have wished to direct a timetable, but you think it's better to talk it over with Mr. Aegis?
Yes, if that can conveniently be done, and we can be in communication tomorrow or very early next week, also with Mr. Morrison.
And with Mr. Morrison, yep. Very well. This hearing will adjourn, and public hearings will resume at 10 a.m. on Monday in relation to the Australian Workers' Union.
Yes.